Hello everyone, my name's Callum, and today I'm going to be showing you how to use the OpenShift MCP server with ACM to be able to get multi-cluster tool access. So let's get started. First of all, what are we seeing here? This is the MCP inspector, which is a tool from the Model Context Protocol community that lets us inspect MCP servers. So let's connect to our server, which I'm running locally, and see what we've got. So let's head over to the tools, list the tools, and we can see this shows all the tools that our MCP server is running. And we can run these, for example, pods list, and we'll get all the pods. And if we look at our output, right now we're seeing pods from my local kind cluster, and we're not seeing any option to actually talk to multiple clusters. Now that's because I haven't configured the MCP server yet to use ACM. So let's jump into that configuration and run this server with ACM and see how our tools change. All right, so this here is the config file for the OpenShift MCP server. And we can see in this file that we have a couple ACM configs that we have to set. So first of all, we're setting the cluster provider strategy. This is telling the OpenShift MCP server, how do I find the different clusters? And we're using ACM kubeconfig. This means I want to be able to access ACM from a locally running server using my kubeconfig, and I need to then provide which context within that kubeconfig is for the ACM cluster. In our case, I have a context named ACM that goes to the ACM hub cluster. From there, we use the ACM cluster proxy add-on to actually talk to other clusters, and so we need to configure the host and a CA file to be able to talk to that cluster proxy. I've redacted the actual root for this demo, but you'd copy and paste the actual root there. This could also be configured to just be ACM instead of ACM kubeconfig, then we wouldn't need the context name, and for the proxy host, we would put the service URL of the proxy instead of the root. In that case, we'd be able to deploy this inside the hub cluster. So let's run this config and see what happens. All right, great. So now we're running our tools with the ACM provider. And so now it should be connecting using ACM kubeconfig into the hub cluster, and then through that to be able to go to the managed clusters as well. So let's try relisting our tools and see what shows up. So now if I go into these tools, for example, pods list, I'll see there's a cluster parameter, and we can see it's optional parameter selecting which cluster to run the tool in, and it defaults to the hub cluster, which is the managed cluster. And so if I just run this, we can see we got a whole bunch of pods from the hub cluster. Now, if I go in and pick the cluster parameter, for example, JBMC1, and run the tool again, it now authenticates against the other cluster, and I get all the pods from that cluster. And so in this way, all of our tools can be mutated to run against different clusters.